Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone's joining. Wow, this is exciting. It's been a while. Good afternoon. Welcome to our first Eden Project North community conversation of 2022. This may seem terribly late, but I hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year. Good to see so many people back with us after our Christmas break. Today's theme is Winter in the Bay, and we've got some great speakers to talk to you. And then, as usual, we will go to a Q&A session straight afterwards. I'm sure, well, looking at the gallery of faces here, we have lots of people who are familiar with how these sessions run. But just in case you're not, if a question occurs to you at any point, just put your hand up within the participants menu in Zoom, and we will come to you in order, and hopefully we will get you to ask your question to the panel on video. It'd be great to see and hear from you all. This session is being recorded, and we will make that recording available through our website and YouTube channel shortly afterwards, just in case you want to revisit anything, or there are people who can't make it who would still like to see it. We'll send out an email to all the participants afterwards about that, and it will also be on edenproject.com/north, and there as well you can see the full programme of forthcoming community conversations, which have been confirmed throughout 2022 now, so you can sign up for all of them if you're that keen, and you can do that all through edenproject.com/north. So as usual, we're going to kick off with a word from Dave Harland, our Chief Executive. So Dave, over to you.
Thank you, Ben, and good afternoon, everyone. Really lovely to see you in 2022. So as Ben says, the first time of the year. Well, look, we're very much still here, and we're in an exciting phase of the project. We've got a few really great speakers coming up in a second, but just before that, just to sort of update you on the project and where we are with the planning and so on. I think just before we do that, I just wanted to reference a sadness that we have, which was the loss of Cedric, who was the longest serving Queen's Guide to the Sands. I think something like 56 years or so, and I was lucky enough to meet Cedric last year, as some of the rest of our team were, and taken across the bay along with his successor Martin. So, and what a wonderful thing that he did, and he was a great fan of what we were trying to do. We had a lovely conversation with him on his tractor, and we remember him very, very fondly, as I'm sure many of you do as well. And what was so nice was a reference from him in his book about his excitement about the project coming forth. So I just wanted to note his passing. Where we are more generally with the project is that the planning application is in, as you know, and there is a meeting on the 31st of January. That is just 10 days away, and the information is now in the public domain, which is exciting. I don't want to say too much other than I'm touching wood, as all of the Eden team are, that this is going to go through, because if the planning approval is granted, it is a huge step forward, as we've talked about before on this call many times, and it really will be the last the last block, the last stone in the way here that will be cleared away, and the project will 100% be shovel ready, ready to go, and we'll be communicating that loudly and proudly to anyone that will listen, particularly in central government. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I've got to give a credit to your local MP, David Morris, has really been rattling the cages that you would hope he would be, and doing the job of a constituency MP. And we as Eden and our partners are continuing to do the same. So we're feeling, that this is going to be a kind of seminal moment over the next month or two. So please watch this space. The other thing I understand is that question time is coming to Morecambe. I think it's next Thursday. This feels like parish notices at the moment, but anyway, I think it's Thursday, and I think it's somewhere near the Midland, but it's very close to that application going in. So we're rather hoping that somebody might ask a question that mentions Eden Project North as it goes by. So if you get the chance, please from the audience, please do mention. Thank you, Vanessa. It's at the platform opposite the Midlands. So now turning to today, we've been really clear along the way that a key component of the design of Eden Project North is that it has to be a year-round destination. And I'm here down in sunny Cornwall at Eden Project in Cornwall, and we've got about 1,000 visitors around the place today on a pretty well, it's sunny, so it's not a miserable January day, but January can be a little bit dark, can't it? And I think that's what we really want to talk about today, is how do we attract visitors to Morecambe and the Bay in the traditionally quieter winter months. And the weather isn't always that encouraging at this time of year, but and we know that the Bay can be a fairly intimidating place. But it's definitely a hive of activity, and bringing that to life, as we've talked about before, is very much part of it. So we've got three speakers to do that. We've got John Carter from the RSPB. We will then have Professor Vanessa Tallman from the Winter Gardens, who we've had before. Welcome back, Vanessa. And then we've got Mike Walker from TEP, who's going to be, I think all of them are going to be focused on the activities around the Bay and in the Bay. So without, I think, further ado, we'll pass over to John. We said first, didn't we, John? Yes, we did. Sorry, I was just doubting myself then for a moment. The floor will be yours. And I forgot to say for the audience as well, we're hoping that you might have brought your own stories as well. So we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end, and look forward to hearing some stuff from you guys. So John, over to you.
Thank you very much, David, and welcome to everybody. I'm just going to go into a little bit of a talk about my own experiences, really, about the Bay and what appeals to me in winter. I'm very happy to say that actually the weather's not remotely intimidating here at the moment. It's been really nice this week. It's been lovely. It's been bright and calm, and it almost feels spring-like on some days. And we actually had our first bittern booming yesterday morning, which is a significant moment for us in any year. I might come back onto that a little bit later. But for myself, really, I mean, I moved to Morecambe as an 11-year-old in the winter, middle of a winter, from landlocked South Yorkshire. I'd never spent a great deal of time on the coast prior to that. And as a budding, very amateur naturalist, I very quickly discovered the beach and the Bay and the tides and all that stuff that makes this area so special. And over the following years, all the way through my school years, I learned and delved deeper and deeper into the complexities of the coastal landscape and the environments within that, and spent an awful lot of time on the beach, trawling up and down, looking for dead birds on the tide line and picking up shells and stones and things like that, and bird watching. And then I discovered Leighton Moss, RSPB Leighton Moss, which is where I work today, which is a very fortuitous kind of a circle of events really that led me here. But to kind of try and kind of explain the excitement of discovering this area for me as a child was pretty hard to do. It was mind blowing, and it was truly awe inspiring, and it did set a path for my whole life. I kind of was an amateur ornithologist, a bird watcher, a nature lover for very many years. But winter, for me, is really when it comes into its own, this area. You've got huge numbers of very important numbers of species of birds that come to Morecambe Bay. That tide in, tide out creates a vast area of feeding habitat for really important, internationally important numbers of birds, such as curlew and oystercatcher, knot, dunlin. I mean, if you're a bird watcher, this means something. If you're not, it's a kind of a difficult concept to kind of get your head around. But I mean, you just see the scale of it. And the thing is, most of these birds are actually very accessible to people walking around in Morecambe on a regular basis, or anywhere around the bay for that matter. Turnstone, oystercatcher, curlew, these are noisy birds. They're easily seen from wherever you may be, and they are in such good numbers that it's hard to ignore them. Also very noisy, you kind of hear them wherever you walk around. They add to the auroral landscape of the bay as well. Now, obviously, as an organisation, the RSPB is very involved in the conservation and management of the bay in certain areas as well. So areas of Hess Bank, Bolton Sands, and over towards within the Arnside and Silverdale AOMB, we manage quite large areas of salt marsh and tidal areas there, and that's because we're very concerned about some of the issues surrounding coastal erosion and disturbance and all those other things. But I think the thing about winter is it's such a, as David alluded to before, the weather can make the landscape, change daily. It can be an intimidating landscape when the weather kind of wells up there and the tide's roaring, and we've got kind of storms and things. But that's kind of what makes it very exciting. From a birdwatcher perspective, obviously, crazy weather brings in different birds as well, and it makes it quite exciting. You never quite know what you might see, and because we've got such access to much of the bay, it allows people to really connect with it and really enjoy it, I think. You can walk from from Heysham right the way around to Hess Bank and beyond, all the way around Silverdale, Arnside, up to Grange, up to Barrow, and it changes. The landscape changes, not only the coastal landscape, but the landscape behind you as well. And I think the bay itself is a magical place, not only for the actual coastal areas of the bay, but also behind that, the landscape behind that is influenced. So inland a little bit is still very much part of the bay landscape for me, and it's still important. So places like Leighton Moss, which is a big wetland area, once a tidal wetland area, but now a freshwater area with this vast reed bed in it, which is again a site which is massively important for certain species of birds that we manage it for. The bittern that I mentioned earlier, it being primarily one of the species that we manage at Leighton Moss for. But it's also a great way to get people to come and experience nature. So as an 11-year-old, when I first came here and saw my first bittern on the ice, I didn't really know what a bittern was that day, actually. I've got to be honest. I went away, looked it up, and was thrilled to discover it was such a rare bird that I'd spotted. But it's that kind of way that gets people. You can get people into nature in a way that's comfortable and friendly and safe, and allows people to kind of explore something that they might not have access to or feel that they have access to. And I think one of the important things is for organisations like ours and for everybody invested in the kind of the environment of the bay is to kind of demystify some of the things around nature, access and exploration, and make it available to absolutely everybody. I don't ever want people to think that you've got to be a bird watcher to get out and enjoy nature or bird watching or a place like Leighton Moss. Everybody should be comfortable enough to be able to come here. And I think it's a great starting point. You may stand on the promenade and look out and see wheeling flocks of knots and think, I don't know what they are. Well, who's going to tell you? This is what Eden and what our collective kind of educational kind of programs are going to be about in the future. I think about engaging more people with what is out there and why it's important and why we should connect with it. There's been an awful lot of research and discussion about well-being in nature and about people getting out and about, and the mental health benefits of immersing yourself in nature. And I think this is something we really need to kind of work towards doing more of and becoming more accessible to a much greater audience. Nature for me has always been there, but I realise it's not always the case for everybody, and I think sometimes we need to work a little bit harder to get people out there and make it much more kind of appealing to many people. And hopefully, to kind of badly paraphrase David Attenborough, people will not protect what they don't understand or what they've never experienced. And I think it's really important that we collectively make sure that that's a thing that we do. I've been leading a guided walk here this morning with a lot of people. It was a beginner's bird watching thing, and it's lovely to be able to kind of see that change on people's faces as things start to make sense to them. You explain something that's been around them all their lives, and all of a sudden they're kind of making sense of it and they're appreciating it more than they ever did. And I think we have quite a job to do. But but it's one that's really exciting. Kind of job to do is to try and reach more people and get more people interested in why we value this landscape, why the Bay is such an important place, and how we can then move forward in thinking bigger about environment and about conservation and about well-being and all those things that are attached to it. And that's my bit, really. I think that's. I'm happy to take some questions later and hand over to next.
Thank you, John. That's great and a lovely lead. It's always, well, I find it always so inspiring to hear people who are, really on the sharp end of this stuff, but also to hear your passion coming through for, your own journey. And it reminded me, over Christmas, I read a fantastic book by one of our country's finest. I don't know if he's a nature writer really, but Adam Nicholson, who's written a book that's called, I think it's called "The Sea is Not Made of Water: Life Between the Tides." And it's a journey through the different sort of species on the tide line. And you just took me back to that book because he features much of it. I can't recommend it highly enough. I haven't got the title right. Anyway, I'll put it on the chat if not. So and I'm looking forward to coming on one of your. I think I'll start with the basic course. Is that all right? So if that's okay. So super. Thanks, John. So then we're going to move on to Vanessa, who is involved with a lot of stuff around the area. As many of you will know, I can't see Vanessa on my screen, but she was there. But I'm hoping she is about to appear.
I'm here.
You're there. Marvellous. Thank you, Vanessa. So lovely to see you. So the floor is yours. Do give us an update and your thoughts. That'd be great.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And what I want to do is, obviously, for people who don't know, I'm chair of the Morecambe Winter Gardens Preservation Trust, and I did an update a few months ago on where we were. So I wanted to just talk about our plans for this year, how we've got to the point of spending and raising 1.0058 thousand, just over a million money from Historic England, and what it's been spent on, what the building's looking like now, and our plans for the year. So I've asked Tom to share the screen and start with a wonderful film. It's on our homepage. We're all run by volunteers, and our webpage has been put together by Gary Owen, who's our digital manager volunteer, who's done an amazing job. And we've got a wonderful film done by Historic England. So if you can share the screen, and you can find this at your own leisure, but it just tells you what we've actually done in the last 6 months.
I feel that the Winter Gardens...
If it plays. If it's not, you can put the link in the chat.
Hardy on that stage. Sir Lawrence Olivier on that stage.
Azza Sangronan, a local girl born and bred here who played in this building and performed on the stage, who used to come in and jib in and go up to the gods and watch her play for nothing. I feel really proud the day that this becomes a fully operational performance venue again. This is a building where Elgar performed, where the Halley Orchestra played. But a building that was also home to local amateur dram. All the local amateur dramatic groups would do their pantos. And Morecambe and Heysham had 4. I can't quite believe it. Full-scale productions, just phenomenal. So it's both a national theatre and it's also a local community hub of people's memories. This incredible plaster ceiling is one of the largest expanse of fibrous plaster ceiling in the UK, and is literally a wonderful architectural splendour, but has many issues with it. And through the Historic England grant, we were very fortunate to have the expertise of Hales and Howe, a wonderful firm from Bristol, who told me that they'd also worked on Putin's Palace, but this building was better. And having that expertise and this craftsmanship and skill which they brought back to the building has been truly amazing. But without Historic England, this would never have happened. This has ultimately brought new life to this building, because we can now start to think about this building as a music venue, as a venue where we can put performance back into the building. Alongside the work from Historic England, we have the most incredible group of volunteers.
Generally, the volunteer group come from people who have retired, but we've got highly skilled people. Our French polisher was wearing in Gillows of Lancaster, and we've got him for free. All our volunteers do this for no payment. The reward is what we will get back as this theatre.
I know that my job will be done, and it's in safe hands for my nieces, nephews, their children, their grandchildren, to come and see that the Winter Gardens is a part of Morecambe's history and future.
It's more than worth doing. This is of importance to Morecambe, but it's also important to me because this is a unique Victorian theatre.
Thank you, everyone. It does bring a tear to my eye. And for anyone, obviously, I'm from Morecambe, but the famous Mally O'Neill, who is the star of the show as long as the building, is it runs the Restoration and Volunteer Group. So the image you would have seen would have shown you all the work that was done on the ceiling and all the missing plasters. So the infrastructure of the building is now safe. The heating is now in. And we've basically increased the capacity of the building now for the first time since 1977. The building's capacity is up to 995. So the first gig we did last year, was the Levellers. And Ben, Tommy, you can just show the two pictures I just want to show you. So this is what we want. We're moving to turning this venue into an all year round music venue. And you can see there, we had over 900 people in the building. We had the Levellers, which was due to be in Lancaster at the Ashton Hall, but was cancelled because of they're having problems with their ceiling. And so ours is all now done and restored, and they moved the gig to us at the last minute. So it was a really important exercise in understanding the infrastructure for taking these large touring bands. And we're now working with Kendall Calling and other national promoters about putting events on throughout the rest of the year. Show the next slide, just shows you. And there they are on stage. And it was a really emotional moment. So I know might be people who went, or it's not, the Levellers is not their thing, but it was quite an amazing thing. The second part we're doing now, we are currently closed between January till the end of March. And we're doing the second stage of the restoration grant from Historic England. We can show that slide. And you might have seen on the film that the beautiful box at the front had a whole picture section taken. Between the many owners between 1977 and 2006, when the trust took over, parts of the building were just ransacked, and that whole box that you see that was missing was taken off the front and sold to America. And we've now had the funding from Historic England, and we've put a new one back in place. And the next part of the work we're doing with Historic England is basically shoring up and making sure that the horseshoe and all the areas. So those are the kind of three features. But what I want to say is this year is our 100, that's the last one. You don't need to see screen share. This year is our 125th anniversary. We've got loads of events planned. We've got lots of things on. Our aim is to have the Winter Gardens as an all year round venue for performance, primarily music. We'll be open from April onwards, all year round, taking events. And that we plan over the next 5 years to open 9 months of the year, doing events, and 3 months doing intense work that needs to be done. It seems like we've done a lot, and we have a 5-year plan. We still have £6.5 million to raise, but we've raised over £1 million in the last year and put it into the building. So I will do a call for volunteers if you would like to be part of the volunteers, and I'll put the link in the chat. If you want to come and support us, as many people have. Last year, we had over 11,000 visitors between April through to October. But more importantly, when we had the Levellers, we've got the postcode data. We had visitors from Cumbria, we had visitors from Northumbria, we had visitors from all over the country. So it shows if you put really great events on in the venues in Morecambe, people will come. And that's all I have to say, really. Happy to take questions.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. It's just wonderful to see that. I have to say, it's so evocative, that bill. Every time I see your stuff, it's just wonderful to see it coming back to life. And well, look, we share something. I think we've had the Levelers as well. 2018, I think they were with us, if I remember rightly, because they couldn't. They have a festival called I think A Beautiful Day Out. So that's just so brilliant to see it. And I urge everyone to support everything that you're doing there. And we're looking forward to being great neighbours and sharing the limelight with you. So as well along there. So bringing some great stuff to Morecambe. So super. So then we're going to just go to our final speaker, who is Mike Walker from TEP, who have been heavily involved in our project because they've been, along with some of our own team, designing the landscape, haven't you? And some of the public realm, Mike, and so on. So, and we've showed some of your finest work before here. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm just about to share my screen, hopefully. Hopefully everybody can see that. Does that come up? Yeah. Right. Well, basically, yeah, what I was going to talk about is just following on from birds a bit in the winter period, and birds for the non-bird watcher, I think. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about how one of the ways in which Morecambe Bay is such an interesting and important place at this time of year during the winter. During the winter, the UK shores actually become home to massive numbers of birds from around the world, including hundreds of thousands of waders, and they're partly attracted by the location of where we are, because we're quite close to where these birds tend to breed, up in the Arctic and up in Northern Europe and Scandinavia, and also our climate. So we're relatively warm. We're warmed by the Gulf Stream, and also our masses of mud, which is why I've got this first slide, which is all around the coast and provides fantastic feeding resources for these wading birds. And mud is certainly something that Morecambe Bay isn't short of. And actually, Morecambe Bay is the second most important place for the wintering waders in the whole of the United Kingdom, and it attracts about 100,000 waders. And yeah, as part of the ecology work that we've done for Eden, we've seen, we've got a really good understanding of how these birds use Morecambe, and we've got to see amazing sights and spectacles. And so I thought it would be good to talk to you just about 3 of those bird species that you can see in really good numbers in Morecambe Bay, particularly from Morecambe Front as well during the winter period. And just to give you an idea of how amazing these birds are and how really interesting they are. So first of all, the knot. Now, there's some photos, hopefully have come up. And yeah, so not particularly interesting looking bird during the winter period. Sadly, we don't get to see them during their breeding season. They nest up in the Arctic, and during that time they're an amazing sort of chestnut red colour, a really striking bird. But it's the migration of this bird that makes it so special, so interesting. They'll actually, the race of knot that comes to Morecambe is one from it's called Icelandica, and it nests up in the Arctic, and it will migrate about 5,000 kilometres.
Mike,
Mike,
I'm just going to tell you that your slide is frozen, and we can see what you're talking about on the left, but not on the main bit of the screen. I think I was just checking with my colleagues.
Okay, can you just see the two birds on the left? Can you?
we can see 6 little birds down on the left, but you're on a page that says Mud, Glorious Mud, and stuck there. So we'd love to be able to see what you're actually talking about.
Right. Okay. That is very strange.
And it's all right, because a Zoom call isn't a Zoom call if it doesn't go wrong at some point.
Well, yeah, you've got to have something that goes slightly wrong. Let's just check now why that's not working. Is that sharing at all?
No, I'm afraid not. I think you might have to stop sharing and start again, and but maybe just talk without the pictures. There we go. Yeah. That's you taking the share off, but
okay, never mind.
We tried. We saw what you were trying to do.
We won't be able to see the birds, sadly.
Keep going there, Mike.
That's a shame. So I'll just describe them there. So it's a grey bird, fairly smallish, short, dark bill. But yeah, it's a migration anyway, if not, which makes it so amazing. So yeah, we'll migrate 5,000 kilometres. Other races of them around the world will go even further. And yeah, what happens is actually when they nest up in the Arctic, about 4 weeks after the chicks have hatched out of the eggs, the parents will go off on their own migration. They leave them and leave the chicks to it. And these chicks kind of group together, and then on their own accord, they'll undertake this 5,000 kilometre migration with no guide, never having done it before, and somehow find their way perfectly each time. And it's just somehow ingrained into them. So fantastic things. And yeah, you'll see thousands of these birds out from Morecambe seafront. And if you're lucky enough, you get to see them all flying together in one of those murmurations where they all kind of wheel around and fly together as one. And I was lucky enough one time to be out on the Stone Jetty as a good few thousand of these birds flew right over my head, really low. And it was breathtaking. The noise of them is something incredible. And until recently as well, the movements of these birds around the northwest of England wasn't really understood. People didn't really know where they were going. But they did some bird ringing studies, where they attach a ring around the leg of the bird, and it's got a number on, and you can actually work out what bird's gone where. And they found that the birds up in Morecambe were actually travelling all the way down to the Dee estuary down off the coast of the Wirral, and back up again on quite a regular basis. And it's quite it's about 80 kilometres. It's a fair old trek. But I suppose for a bird that can fly up to the Arctic and migrate 5,000 kilometres, it's a bit of a walk in the park, really. But yeah, stunning bird. And next, I wanted to talk to you about oyster catcher. Now, I'm sure you've seen oyster catchers. Sadly, you didn't get to see the slide of them. They're kind of really striking birds, black and white, and they've got a bright orangey red bill and bright pink legs, and they never really shut up. They make this kind of peeping noise all the time, and they're quite hard to miss, to be honest. And again, you can see thousands of them in Morecambe Bay. Just from the front, you can see great big groups of them feeding on the intertidal areas, and then at high tide you can see them roosting on the groin structures, the man-made structures along the edge of the bay as well. And as the name's somewhat misleading, they're called oyster catchers, and yet they don't really feed on oysters in this country. They actually feed on cockles and mussels most of the time, and worms as well. And for this bird, it's their feeding habits that also make them really interesting, because they've worked out there's actually 3 different groups of oyster catcher. You've got ones that will feed in, they'll kind of stab at the cockles and mussels to break them open. Then you get others that kind of prise them apart, and others that will feed on the worms. And actually, each of these different groups has a different beak shape. They have different, some will have longer beaks, and some will have shorter beaks and wider beaks, depending on how they feed. So the wider beak, short ones will prise open the shellfish, for example. And they can actually change over time between these different kinds. So they can actually grow their beak, or they can shrink it, which is amazing over time. And then finally, I was going to speak about turnstone. Now, these birds are they're really well camouflaged. Actually, they're just a little wader bird, and they blend in with the sort of stony, rocky shores that they feed on. They really blend in with their plumage. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't see them, even though they come really close in. They can be quite bold with people. They can come really quite close to them, but you'll miss them quite a lot of the time because they're so well camouflaged. And unlike oyster catcher, actually, their name does say what they do. They do turn stones. That's what they do. They flip these stones over and get the food from underneath, sort of invertebrates and other things. And some of them can actually turn over really big stones. There's been reports of them turning over stones about as big as they are. And on one of the photos that I showed, showed how they can be really tame. At some places like St. Ives, for example, you can get them just wandering onto the bench that you're sitting on, which happened to me one time. And they'll actually take chips off the floor and things if people put them on the floor. And thankfully, they don't steal them from you like gulls do. But yeah, a really interesting bird. And you can get to see them year round as well, which is another good thing about them. But the ones that we get over the winter predominantly are the ones that have nested up in as far north as Greenland and Canada as well. And they're the ones that come down to us for the winter. But you get other birds that nest up in Northern Europe and they'll pass through during the spring and summer. So yeah, you get to see them year round as well, which is great. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that Morecambe Bay is connected both with the rest of the country, but also with the rest of the world in terms of the birds that it supports. And it's really important within the whole world because of that. And what an immense privilege it is to be able to just head over to the shore and see these birds during the wintertime and see these amazing birds at work. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mike. And another inspiring little vignette there. And it's just great to hear your passion. And there's a wonderful metaphor here about the connections to the world. What we're trying to do, as well is to make sure that in part people are talking about Morecambe all over the country and all over the world. And to be honest, we already do when we're out and about with our new sites in Colombia and Australia and Dubai and so on. So we'll keep doing that. I think I've mentioned this before on one of these things. Taking a few chips off the floor is fine. The gulls down here in Cornwall take the pasty out of your hand and and take half your arm with it. But you learn pretty quickly. It only happens to you once. So that's good fun to watch the tourists anyway. So maybe on one level. So look, Mike, Professor Vanessa, and John, thank you for those really inspiring talks. Ben, I think the floor is back to you to see what else we've got that's inspiring out. Oh, I just have to mention, by the way, prize of the call goes to Norman Woodhead for his background. I mean, he's really making an effort using our CGI images, by the way, if you find Norman in the screen. So, maybe we'll start a competition about who can have the best background. That might be dangerous. Ben.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks to all the panel. And congratulations to Norman. Long may that award continue as these go on. Great to hear from everyone. And it would be lovely to hear from the floor now. We have just under 20 minutes left for questions. We'll try and get through to as many as possible. Please feel free to ask the panel a question, but also, given the theme of today's conversation, it would be great if you have any kind of observations or memories or anything like that about your wildlife or nature or winter in the Bay. It would be lovely to hear from you. So please do feel free to put your hand up in the Zoom platform in the participants menu, and we will come to you in order. First up, wow, look at this. That's never happened before. Normally I have that moment of nerves where I don't think anyone's going to put their hand up. We've got two now. So let's go to Mark first, shall we? Tom, if you could unmute Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hello again. Thank you for putting me online. Yes, the winter in the bay, suggestions for how you can make it sort of extend the season. And picking up on the sort of bird theme, a couple of ideas is a sort of a migratory, using other facilities that are around, like the various wetland areas, and actually encourage people to travel around, not just to the Eden project, but to have multi-venues, and to actually work at organising that, rather than just everyone having their own sort of route to the venue. Actually facilitate multi-venue participation. And in terms of using digital technology and making it international, birds come from various locations, and the opportunity is there perhaps to talk to the areas that the birds have come from, so they can give insights such as the birds' behaviour in different environments. And so you're actually doing presentations and live video links with other parts of the world.
Mark, thank you. Ben's gone on mute.
So I was just about to unmute, and then you unmuted, Dave. So that thing where you're just being so polite and just deferential. Do you want to answer Mark's question?
Not really, but I will if you want. I was going to ask Tim Neri, actually. I mean, I think the answer is yes, Mark. And I see actually on the chat that there's some interesting points about the viaduct at Armside and so on. Yes, we are. And I think, some things that are being suggested there are absolutely right. The idea of connecting up the world so that your local can be part of a global is fascinating to us. And I think what we've always been fascinated by the idea of portals, if you like, of going into other worlds and bringing them to life. Starting with our rainforest here, and the idea that you could be seeing what was actually happening in Costa Rica or Colombia or Brazil and so on by sort of stepping through that door, I think is exciting. And what you're suggesting sort of extends from that. I don't know if Tim or Emma wanted to answer it more technically than that in terms of the partnerships and so on, but thank you for your comment, Mark.
Thank you.
I was just going to reassure Mark, and I saw the comment from Jack as well. So we're very much in the consultation group around the Armside Viaduct and connecting to the east and north of the Eden site. So very, very much supporting that at the moment and making sure that we can connect with the other side of the bay.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Mark, for your contribution. Tom, let's go to John next, please. Hi, John, you're unmuted.
Hello.
What's your question, please?
It's mainly around the environment, Morecambe Bay. People have mentioned the environment and wildlife. I'm part of a swimming group here. I started it about 4 years ago with me, and there's about 5,000 members now. One question a lot of people ask who join is about water quality. We've had a couple of incidents last year with sewage being discharged into the sea when drains overflowed. And I was just wondering, is there anybody we can contact by ourselves or as part of this whole project to try to ensure that the water quality is good here, not just for us, for the wildlife that comes here, and just as it's going to be the backdrop to the Eden project, I'm sure it'd be in everybody's best interest that the water is. I mean, I don't know if we can stop sewage being discharged into the sea, but if there's anybody involved with this who knows who we could approach to make that happen, it would be good. I mean, as a group, if we're ever using the beach swimming and we see litter, we do try to pick it up and look after the environment for ourselves and everybody else. But if something could be done just to make the water cleaner or to stop sewage being discharged, I'd be interested to know who we'd speak to.
John, I'll just start from a Eden perspective. I don't totally know what the technical answer is, but it's an issue that is close to our hearts because it's a it's really a dirty secret that quite literally that the country has in terms of its rivers, and as a coastal dweller down here, as all the Cornish team are, it's something we're very conscious of. And I would direct you as a first instance towards Surfers Against Sewage, who are an organisation down here who have a national sort of campaign on this, but there's numerous others as well. And it's something that the water authorities and I guess the Environment Agency and DEFRA I know are working on, but it can't come soon enough. So I don't know if there's a more technical answer that someone wants to give you, but I know that those sources will certainly help you out. So, but if anyone knows the answer, then shout now.
Thank you.
Well, what we might do, John, is we'll put something up on the when we post this afterwards. We'll maybe put some links there. And thank you, Tom has just put Surfers Against Sewage in the chat. But we'll put any other links that we come across. Just conscious of getting through the questions, Ben.
Okay,
thanks, Dave, and thanks, John, for your question. Lizzie is next up. So, Tom, if we could unmute Lizzie, please. Hi, Lizzie. What's your question, please?
Thank you. I'm going to put my hand down now because otherwise I will forget. Just on the sewage discharge, that is the Environment Agency who you would report any issues to. I'm actually a county councillor representing a seat in Lancaster, but I do help people out with casework across the district. So if you're struggling to get in touch with the right people, do just get in touch with me, and I'll put my email in the chat afterwards, just so you've got it if you are struggling. I was thinking about winter in the Bay, and it's been lovely to hear all the speakers, and I very much like watching the birds, although I'm not a bird watcher. I don't really know anything, but it is fantastic. Something that I've been thinking about recently is how to attract different groups to Morecambe around the whole of the year. Obviously, it's a lot easier in summer, and when Eden comes, I think we will have a steady stream of people coming all year round. I think looking at the birdwatching community is really a great idea. I was also thinking about kind of the business community, and this is maybe something John O'Neill can advise on more. I work for a small business, and we've very recently started doing more on-site work for clients. I went to Birmingham last week, and that was a lovely city to be in. And I'm thinking about kind of the hotel and conferencing facilities that we'd need to kind of attract the business community as we do go back to more face-to-face work. I think there's probably less likely to be kind of half-day and one-day events in person, but certainly, I'd love to bring Labour Party conference back to Morecambe. It was 1952 the last time it was here, so I would love to see a venue big enough for the Labour Party conference. And I didn't know whether anyone on the call had kind of the contacts or the knowledge to see about where we go with that conversation, and how we can make Morecambe an attractive destination for the business community as well. Because it's just, as someone who works for a small business, when I'm organising things for the team, you do think about the location you're going to, and I think the Bay is just such an attractive place to come anyway. So it's very much an idea and a suggestion, and I don't think I have the knowledge or the contacts to get it going, but I'd be really interested if anyone else did. Thank you.
As if by magic, John O'Neill from the Business Improvement District has appeared in the middle of my screen with his hand. So I think we should go to John next. John, that's not a hospital pass, is it, at all? The opposite.
Sorry, Dave.
I said that's not a hospital pass. You can answer that question, can't you, for Lizzie, I'm hoping?
I certainly hope so, actually, Dave. And thanks, Lizzie, for the question. I was actually going to say is that we're really proud as a business improvement district to have such an iconic monument as the Winter Gardens within the community, and also for the Vanessa and her team to sit on the bid committee and help us steer the direction of Morecambe. And as for the birds, well, everyone should know Gully. He is our mascot, actually. He's a herring gull. Gulls are not the most sort of love creatures in the UK, but I think Morecambe gulls are probably more restrained and better behaved than a lot of gulls around the country, certainly not Scarborough and Bridlington. Okay, regarding the question, first thing, I don't know if hopefully everyone's seen the Morecambe Sparkle lights this year that are still down the prom and due to come down next year because they are a seasonal thing. We started doing the lights in 2017 and we've been slowly expanding them. Last year, we teamed up with County Council to introduce these cones right down the prom. They're colour-changing LEDs, programmable from this season. The intention, we are bidding into a big fund and we already have high-profile partners, actually, to bring the illuminations, as we call it, sparkle back to Morecambe from hopefully December this year. I don't know if you know, but there's a bone of contention as who had the illuminations first. Was it Morecambe or was it Blackpool? We like to think it's Morecambe, so we just want to say actually that's this is what it's going to be. We won't be like Blackpool. We're not calling it the illuminations, and it's not going to be light up Lancaster. It's going to be Morecambe. It's going to be all about sustainability, all about the bay, all about ecology, future energy, and where we live. I mean, we live in. You can probably tell by my accent, I'm not exactly local, actually. Sort of, but I think this is one of the best places to live in the country. And if you've heard me say these things before, I've never said any different. And we welcome Eden coming in to us, and it's all a matter of actually working hand in hand with Eden and the business community. The illuminations sparkle are proven to bring visitors in. I've seen by the amount of hits we've had on our webcam during the COVID pandemic, and also sparkle. It's over 170,000. So people look at Morecambe all around the year. And I can tell when the spikes are. The spikes have been when people couldn't get out during the pandemic and they couldn't get out over to Morecambe to see the lights. And this is borne by the fact that the business is saying this is, they love it. People are specifically coming out time and time again to actually to see the sparkle lights. And this is just a part of actually what we are proposing. We've already got 39 locations from Lord Street so far down to the Battery at the West End to propose for different installations, whether it be sort of future technology or entertainment or anything like that. But it's all about the story of the bay and it's all about Morecambe. And with that will bring the businesses in, that will bring more concessions in, and hopefully it'll open up our nighttime economy during winter. And as Lizzie, the conference side of things, we're dearly, dearly passionate to see Frontierland basically devoted to leisure, which includes more hotel accommodation. We're short, even without Eden, 50% of hotel accommodation during peak period. Should Eden come along and the conference start up again, then we are going to be very, very short. Frontierland is the ideal site to develop for leisure and hotel and hospitality. So yeah, we've firmly gotten that. We're in on the conversation, and stay tuned and keep touch. If you've not seen Sparkle, I'll drop a link in here to our website just about what it's been about this year. There's also a drone done by JCV Drones video, 4 minutes overfly. It looks fantastic. But thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John, and thank you. Thank you, Lizzie, for your question. I think, so we've got 5 more minutes. I think probably only time for one more. Colin, Tom, if you could unmute Colin for us, please.
Right, I'm unmuted, I think.
Hi, Colin, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. One area I'm particularly keen on is getting people out and looking. I suppose it comes as so-called passion for the particular, getting down, carrying a hand lens, looking at a bug. It also now these days counts as mindfulness. My background is actually central London. I was brought up in Balham, but I used to get out into the parks and the gardens and into the countryside through the Scouts, and the Scouts really helped me. My gran helped me. She's the last member of our family ever to be on a farm. And she moved into service when she was 11 in 1896, something like that. But that it's getting out and looking. I eventually went to Bristol. I went to university. I met my wife there. We've been married now for 54 years. And then we moved up here in 1969 to Wharton. Through that, I got involved with the AONB and the parish council. And in fact, I was a city councillor for Wharton for about 15 years in the 70s, 80s. And it always struck me that people really ignored the winter season. The thing about winter was it was a time when there was so much came onto the bay. This was the days when we had Peter Scott's television program with an audience of about 10 million. But whenever I used to argue that we should be concentrated on sort of wildlife tourism, getting the bed and breakfast filled up during the winter, also used to get rebutted by the sort of mindset that I met my wife on pier at a tea dance. So what we need is more piers and more tea dances. And I got involved through the AONB just about the same time. And now, all those years later, I'm still involved with the AONB and with the parish council and with the RSPB now with this Wharton Myers project, where we're trying to convert about 90 acres, wetting it more, begin low intensity farming on it, so it's still productive, but in a more wildlife friendly way. But
Colin, yeah. I need to just urge you along because I'm enjoying this story.
I'm just about to stop. So my urge is basically we need to get people out. We need to get people to concentrate.
Yes.
And we need to tap into the enormous number of experts around here. I don't think we're necessarily as biodiverse as we think, but we have more experts who pick up that biodiversity than almost anywhere else in the world.
Yes, I completely agree with your clarion call to observe the small, the medium, the big, the very big. No, that was great. I think we might just have to have a session for you, Colin, next time. So that would be lovely. I'm going to just allow Rachel, because she's been so patient. Can we just let Rachel have her question as long as it's short, Rachel, and easy to answer? If it isn't, you can't have it.
Okay, Tom, if you could unmute Rachel for us, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, yes.
I'll make it quick. I am also not from around here. I'm from California. I'm from the coast. And so I've been drawn to this coast, and I've moved here about 17 years ago. I'm an artist and a goldsmith. I have just opened Lancaster's first jewelry school. And very much like what Colin was saying, noticing those really micro environments is something that I do, and I work on a micro scale often. And I just would like to sort of throw out there to everyone that I think we have a really rich art and theatre community here. And I do really think in terms of winter, there is a huge amount that we can offer to people from outside the area for workshops, art courses, theatre productions. There's just so much going on here. We're becoming richer and richer in terms of pull to those who are creative. So I think that that's something to think about. I've got some great ideas about how to get very young people out in the bay, perhaps when Eden's going up and running, to get them engaged on that micro scale and doing something creative with that. So, and I know there's many other artists that offer the same sort of thing in this area. So that's what I've got to say.
Rachel, that's great. And we wholeheartedly agree. Emma, who's on the line, Emma Critchley here, would love to talk to you more about that.
I am popping my email address in the chat as we speak.
Yeah, great. So that's super. Well, look, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry we've overrun, but we will see you all again next month, hopefully with a planning approval in our hands, and we'll look forward to then accelerating progress towards Eden becoming a reality and allowing all of these different things to come with it. So thank you for sharing your lunchtime with us, and look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thank you, everyone. Just a reminder, the recording will be posted on edenproject.com/north. Also there, you can sign up for all the future events. Thanks so much to all our panelists. and to Dave as well, and for everyone who asked a question. Cheers and see you next time.